This video will serve as a quick introduction to adding and subtracting integers. So first, let's talk about what an integer is. So the set of integers is the set of whole numbers plus their opposites. So 0 does not have an opposite, so it's by itself, but all the other whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., have opposites, -1, -2, -3, -4, etc. As the numbers move to the right, they get larger. So these numbers this way get larger. And so that would mean that the numbers to the left get smaller. 0, you can kind of think of it as the middle. It separates the positives from the negatives. So the positives are to the right of 0, and the negatives are to the left of 0. So we have some rules for adding integers. If they have the same sign, we're going to add them and keep the sign. So if we're adding two positives, we add them and keep the sign of a positive. If we're adding two negatives, we're adding we're adding the numbers and keeping the sign negative. It's kind of like if you're in debt. So let's say you owe your friend $2. That's a negative. And then you borrow another $5. You're in debt $7. So you're adding the numbers, 2 plus 5 is 7, and you're keeping the sign, which shows that you're still in debt. So you're just making the number larger, whichever direction it is. So if both numbers are negative, the number is going to be a larger number, ignoring the sign, right? But it's negative, so you're digging your hole bigger. You're moving to the left further. So that's what we're doing. And again, if the signs are positive, well, 2 plus 5 is 7. You add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, you actually are going to subtract the numbers, and you're going to keep the sign of the larger number. And so I like to equate this to money as well. If you're in debt $2, and then you pay your friend $5, you're now ahead $3, right? So now you gave her more than you needed. You're ahead $3. They're working against each other. It's debt and it's earning. So those are going to work against each other. So you're subtracting the numbers. If you have, let's say, a -7 plus 3. So let's say you owe your friend $7 and you paid her back $3. You would still owe money, right? The debt's bigger than what you paid. So it's still negative. You owe $4. You took $3 of the debt away. So -7 plus 3 is a -4. Notice here that the -7, if you're just looking at the numbers and not the sign, 7 is bigger than 3. Since 7 is negative, your answer will be negative. Same for the one above. If you're just looking at the numbers 2 and 5, 5 is larger than 2. So since 5 is bigger than 2 and 5 is positive, your answer is positive. So same signs, you add the numbers and keep the sign. If it's different signs, you subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger number, ignoring the sign. Okay, so let's look at some examples. It looks like we have 8 examples. So number 1, we have -21 plus a -59. So if I'm adding these, I can see that I have a -21, and I want to add that to -59. So both of these numbers are negative. So since they're the same sign, I'm going to add them and keep the sign that they both have. So 21 plus 59 is 80. And since they're both negative, it's going to stay negative. So -80. Okay, number 2, I have a positive 48. So this is positive. And then I have, well, actually, let me use red for negative. So positive 48. And I have a -16. So you can see that one's positive, one's negative. So these are working against each other. So I need to subtract them since their signs are different. So 48 minus 16 is 32. Notice the larger number is 48. So the answer, 32, is going to be positive. All right, number 3. I have a negative 63 and I have a positive 21. So if I'm looking here, I've got different signs, so I need to actually subtract. So 63 minus 21 is 42. And then if I'm just looking at the numbers, 63 versus 21, 63 is bigger. So that means my sign at the end is going to be a negative. Again, this is like you owe $63, you paid back 21, you still owe 42. All right, number 4. We've got a positive 15 and a positive 8. So those are the same sign, so I just add them and keep the sign. So 15 plus 8 is 23, and that's it. Number 5, I have a positive 18 and a negative 3. Those are different signs, so subtract. 18 is larger, so it'll be 15. So all of these were addition, but now, well, 15 was subtraction, or you can look at it as signs being different. Number 6, 7, and 8. Well, 7's not too much different. Let's do that one first. So 7, if you're looking at those as signs, you have a negative 5 and a negative 4. Since those, remember in a previous video, if you've watched the video on terms, you know that terms are separated by plus or minus symbols. So I can just kind of box in each one, and those are like terms because they're both constant. If I'm thinking of it in that way, then I can see that they're both negative, and I'm going to just add those and keep the sign. So negative 5 and negative 4, that's negative 9. The tricky part comes in for number 6 and 8. And the trick here, or the problem, is that it's subtraction. I only gave you rules for adding, and it's got 2 negatives back to back. So here's the issue, these 2 negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive. If you've got 2 negatives back to back, that makes a positive. You could think about this as being an understood 1 here, and saying negative 1 times negative 4 is a positive 4. Or you can just think of combining these 2 negatives together to make a plus. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So if I rewrite that, it would be negative 6 plus 4. If it's negative 6 plus 4, then these are different signs. I've got a negative 6 and I've got a positive 4. So in that case, they're different signs, so I should subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. 6 is bigger than 4, so it will be negative 2. So again, in number 8, we've got these 2 negatives. Negative times a negative is a positive, so you would put them together as a plus. So this could be rewritten as 8 plus 14. Well, now they're both positive. I've got a positive 8 and a positive 14, so I just add them together. So 8 plus 14 is 22. They're the same sign, so positive 22.